about Jack and Diane. So I am headed down to the auto repair shop because my wife has had an issue with her vehicle. The other night we were driving it and it lit up like a Christmas tree. It's just like everything yellow started coming on, all of it, like all the things. Like airbag comes on and you're like, oh, is the airbag, does that mean the airbag is about to pop? Or is it just not going to work right now? Because, you know, I'd rather that one than but like all the lights are coming on, airbag, ABS, all sorts of stuff's coming on it. She's driving the kid to school this morning, and it's like she had to roll into the auto repair shop because she's like, it's shifting weird. Now, it's not an old vehicle, it's a relatively new vehicle, has 110,000 miles on it. We've looked at like what this thing's worth. We think it's worth somewhere between $12,000 and $14,000. So that's what it is. It's a paid for vehicle, it's a nice vehicle. And the conversation at this point in time is like, well, you know, this is where we're at, you know, 110,000 miles. This is kind of like pretty typical. I had a very wealthy mentor told me about a little over 10 years ago. He's like, Trav, cars don't wear out. We grow tired of them. I thought through that. I'm like, are you sure they don't wear out? I mean, there's a point, right? Like if you have to put more repairs in it than the thing's worth. But he has a point. It's like, so what? You just repair it. And then it's good. Like if you have to put an engine in something, then it's good for another 200,000 miles. If you have to put a transmission in it, it's good for another, you know, presumably 100,000 miles. If you have to put wheels on it, or tires rather, you know, it should be good for another 30, 40, 50,000 miles. So it's like you're gonna have these costs with vehicles. But he told me, he's like, vehicles don't wear out. We grow tired of them. And I think it's a great piece of wisdom, because in America we get into this habit of like swapping cars out. Like I think the average American's like, it doesn't have a car more than 5 years. A lot of people lease them, a lot of people finance them. And it's like, if you really do the math on it, people are utilizing a ton of their income to go towards things that drive you around from A to B. As I've gotten older, I've become less cognizant of like what I drive. Like I don't really care. I just want it to be reliable, and I just want it to go from A to B. And you know, if it's like the 7.3 and I can improve it and like, you know, repaint it and things, you know, looks cool, like I'd rather do that. You know, I'd rather drive that. But I don't have to have like a fancy platinum or something like that. I'd much rather have like, you know, millions in my investment accounts and passive income coming from that than like be dumping, you know, say $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 on a truck that looks cool. Like, well, I need it for work, man. I need it to tow my machines around. Like, dude, you can find things for 10, 15, 20 grand that'll tow your machines around. And the reliability thing is something that I think about when, you know, vehicles don't wear out. We get tired of them, because there's a point where you have to budget for these type of things. Do you have two cars? So that way if one needs repairs, you know, then you got, like, I currently have three trucks. Probably going to sell one, because the current one I'm in, I could actually probably sell it for more than I paid for it. And at the moment, and that's not normal real life. And so it's like, well, maybe I do that, just because like you can't go broke taking a profit, and it's been nice to drive around for, you know, a year and a half, 2 years for essentially zero money almost. So it's like, you know, maybe I do that. Well, I'm debating that right now, like what I want to do. I certainly don't want to have 3 vehicles to wash and move tools around and things like that. But I do think about it. My other one has like 270,000 miles on it. It's like, well, there's going to be moments where it's going to need repairs, it's going to need a clutch, it's going to need, you know, work. And like right now it needs front end work, and, you know, it needs repairs, it needs that. So it's like, you kind of, you know, do you have 2 older cars? The whole rumor of having like one car and it's new and that'll solve your problems, I don't really believe in it, because I've had new things, like new machines. Never owned a new car, but I've had newer cars. Never owned a car, actually, trucks. But I've still had issues. Like I had a truck with 32,000 miles that blew a transmission at 32,000, and blew it again at 50,000, and blew it again at 60,000. Yes, it was a Dodge. So, you know, those things happen. And it's like, well, what's the balance there? I think the best thing to do, and what we do, is we put into an account every month, like as though we're paying a car payment to ourselves. So it's like, hey, we know we're going to need repairs on things. That's why I don't really care. I mean, I care, but it's like whatever this thing costs to fix today or this week or whatever, you know, we have an extra vehicle, so that's fine. We'll be able to utilize that. At the moment, we could always rent one. They're not too terribly expensive to do that. A lot of times through the dealership, you can get a loaner car. And then we just pay ourselves the cost of the difference. If it's $500 a month for car or whatever, you put it in the account, and then at the end of the year you got $6,000. If you do that for 3 years and you don't have any crazy repairs, I mean, maybe you put an engine in it. It's not going to cost you more than a year's worth of savings, so you still are up 2 years of savings. Maybe the vehicle like ours is worth, you know, $12,000 or $14,000. In a year or two it's worth $10,000, and we go, hey, you know what we have saved for a vehicle or repairs, we have 12, 18 grand saved there, and then your vehicle is worth maybe, say, 10,000. Well, you got $28,000 to reassess. Well, you know, what do we want to do? At 110,000 miles, this thing's staying around. At 200,000 miles, you know, vehicles don't wear out. We get tired of them. Yeah, it makes sense, but maybe, you know, if you want to keep it presentable, you paint the thing, or you do little things like that. And that, you know, is something to think about. Like, do you want to put money in? So I'm not saying you keep a car forever and always, although I do think that the super wealthy people do that. Like Sam Walton drove his same pickup truck until he was a billionaire, which is why I had to get my old 7.3 back, because I was like, the moment I sold it, I was like, oh, I know I just made a mistake. But I felt like I had no options, and the truth is you always do have options, especially if your stuff is paid off. You have way more options, because after I got rid of that truck, I went into a finance truck. I already had the finance truck, and I paid a payment for like 3 years, and at the end of it I really didn't have much to show for it except another blown Dodge transmission with like 120,000 miles on it. It was a different Dodge. I had a couple different Dodges back in the day, and it was like, oh, I need it for work, you know, justify it, you know, it was a decent truck. I'm not like hating on it too bad, but it was like, I don't really think the math here worked out well compared to what I've been paying for 3 years, compared to what I could have just, you know, repaired my older truck and just kept the older truck nicer and going, or even buying a second additional older truck. I just put these ideas out because, you know, a lot of people have debate around the edges here, and that's why I put these out, because I think that that's important to talk about. But especially with newer vehicles where they're all censored up and they're all, the incentives to keep a newer vehicle to me are just really diminishing. When you look at, like, you know, getting an older vehicle that maybe has lower miles, it's really easy to repair and it's cheap to repair, and especially like a new diesel truck, like the pricing on them is outrageous, and all that exhaust system stuff on them, and a lot about, oh, I'll just take it off. Well, like, yeah, but then you can get stopped and get like serious tickets. I mean, you're at that point in time, if the EPA wants to come after you, they can. And so, yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but, you know, if you buy a new vehicle and you have a warranty on it, you just voided it, so that wasn't smart. And so, you know, I just think that the cost that people put into vehicles on a monthly basis and then choose not to pay themselves, like, imagine if you're saving a $700 a month payment or $500 a month payment, and you're putting part of that in your car fund because you're going to need to ride around, but maybe not all 500, and then the rest of it for the last, I don't know, year, 2 years, 5 years, you've just been buying like religiously Bitcoin. Like, that's it. You're just like, yeah, I just save my money and just buy Bitcoin. And if that's too gnarly for you, you just, you know, dollar cost average into the you know, Dow or the S&P index fund or something like that. You're just like, every month I just buy $250 of it. And then when it comes time for a new vehicle or repairs for your vehicle, you're like, oh, there it is. Now, I think all financial markets at this moment are kind of crazy, and I expect crashes and dumps. Like, I expect that to happen. But I'm just using it as an example, as a way to just say, look, what if you took your $250, $300, $500, $700 a month and you invested it? Where are you at 5-10 years later? And can you get a car to run an extra 5 or 10 years for you? Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. The reason I'm even considering possibly swapping, you know, offloading this is because it's like, I can possibly offload this, and the profit I get from this, I can like fully restore my 7.3 to like new paint, like new everything, you know? So it's just kind of like, it's hard not to do that, because like, you can't go broke taking a profit. And then if things dump like I think they could, maybe I'll just pick up like a regular cab, 1,500. I had one, I sold it, put a transmission in it, sold the thing for like $3 grand. I was like, oh, why did I do that? It was like a great like 1994 like white 1,500 regular cab, 4-wheel drive. It's like, that's all I needed, you know? And instead, like at that moment, like I had the 7.3 and I had that. And I should have just daily driven that and used the 7.3 exclusively for work to keep miles off of it. And but instead what I did is I sold the 7.3, I sold that, and I went into like a finance 3,500 Dodge Cummins. And I think it was like an extremely stupid mistake, especially if you were to take that $700 payment, or I think it was like $650. Then you got insurance on that nicer truck too. It was like $40,000 truck. If I took that 10 grand I put down on that vehicle, because that was an addition, like I put the 10 grand down, like that was just my cash I had laying around. And then 2, all the payments I put in, and I just dollar cost average into Bitcoin. I mean, you're talking about when Bitcoin was under $1,000. Like almost every single month I've been grabbing one. It's worth about $50,000 today. It pays for a lot of new vehicles. Actually, you could even liquidate that thing, because you might, think it's a little high at the moment. Like, 10, 15, 40, 50, 40 grand for, and maybe it's crazy, but you buy like an index or like an oil stock that pays a 10% dividend, and you just sit back and chill. So now you've got like 50,000, you sell it, you put it in your auto fund, and every year you're getting $5,000 that just goes right into your savings account for your new vehicles. And like now you've got this nest egg that continually pays for your transportation. You're quote free from the transportation expenses for life. I wish I had done those things. I put these ideas out because now I'm doing these things. I'm building that little nest egg that just spits off my transportation account. And I'd like to limit that and zero that out. My real dream is like electric vehicles and have solar panels. And it's like, I know there'll be expenses with that, but it's like ultimately, I'm pretty done spending a lot of money on transportation. I'll always spend money on transport, but it'll be a lot less than I did before. And if I can take that extra savings and invest it in like nest egg, then it's like every time I need batteries, I need a new vehicle, or my farm truck, I need parts or whatever for that. There it is. I don't have to pay for it anymore. That's the whole key, is to have capital make capital for you so that you can do whatever you want with your life. Like the material world should produce for itself. Like you have capital produces more capital. Your life is now free to go do what you want, because we all are working with limited time. I don't know how many years I have left, maybe 80, maybe 10, maybe 8 weeks, who knows. But I put that on your radar. Vehicles don't wear out. We just grow tired of them. And with that, I'm about to pull up to the dealership here and pick up the wife. And probably give her the same talk. Hey, yeah, the new cars, because this is what the sales guys do, right? They walk around like, oh, look at this car. I told her you can't get any new cars. Not until we're done with the new house. And I've never bought a new car in my life, so I'm a little uncomfortable with it. Also, I got this rule. I'm like, you gotta get electric. She can't find one she likes. I'm like, perfect. That'll keep that conversation off for another few years, right? So anyway, guys, have a good one.